The first thing Terran Os noticed was the empty chairs. There were 7 of them in the human delegation row. 7 polished black seats beneath the blue and white insignia of Earth, all facing the central floor of the Galactic Concord. Normally, the human section was irritatingly full. Humans brought legal advisors to trade hearings, engineers to border hearings, military officers to peace conferences, and sometimes 3 specialists when every other delegation brought 1. They asked uncomfortable questions. They wanted timestamps, sensor logs, chain of command records, and sign definitions for words everyone else preferred to leave vague. Today, not a single human sat there. The chamber door sealed. Low conversation faded. Terran looked toward the Neurales delegation. Prefect Thalen Kor was present. That alone made Terran uneasy. 40 hours earlier, a Concord peace mission had arrived at Githra Relay in the Asterian Corridor. Its purpose had been painfully ordinary: negotiate inspection rights, prevent another border incident, and establish a temporary lane for civilian traffic. The mission had included neutral observers, 2 Neurales representatives, 4 Concord mediators, and 7 humans. The Directorate claimed the shuttle had suffered a navigation failure. Then the evidence began arriving. Fragments from the station perimeter, civilian recordings, a distorted emergency transmission, and most troubling, a gap of exactly 11 minutes in the Directorate's official traffic archive. Terran had spent most of his career studying diplomatic collapse. 11 missing minutes were often more important than 11 years of speeches. The chamber coordinator struck the floor with a light pulse. Session begins. Prefect Kor stood immediately. He was broad for a Neurales, his silver ceremonial mantle held stiff against his shoulders. "The Directorate regrets the tragedy at Githra Relay," he said. "We have already offered cooperation." Terran almost winced. Offered cooperation. A phrase governments used when they had not yet decided whether they were victims, witnesses, or suspects. Kor continued. "We have also confirmed that several passengers survived the incident and are presently under protective Directorate custody." The chamber changed. Not visibly, but Terran felt it. A slight shift of posture from the neutral ambassadors. A glance from one military representative to another. Protective custody. Terran looked again at the empty human chairs. Kor spread his hands. "We invite humanity to meet with us immediately. There is no reason for this unfortunate event to escalate." A Concord administrator asked, "Are the survivors free to communicate with their governments?" "They are being questioned." "Are they free to leave?" "The situation remains under investigation." The administrator paused. "So no." Kor's jaw tightened. Terran glanced toward the upper observation gallery. A small side door opened. 7 humans did not enter. 2 did. 1 wore the dark formal uniform of the human fleet. The other wore a plain diplomatic coat. The officer was Commodore Imani Rook. Terran knew her name. Everyone working the Asterian Corridor did. She commanded the human task force assigned to regional rescue, convoy escort, and anti-piracy operations. Beside her walked Envoy Elias Trent. Neither hurried. Neither looked toward the empty chairs. They crossed the chamber and stopped at the central floor instead. Kor smiled. There, humanity has come to negotiate. Rook looked at him. No. The word was not loud. That made the chamber quieter. Envoy Trent placed a narrow data wafer on the evidence pedestal. "We've come to ask one question." The central display activated. A map of Githra Relay appeared. Then timestamps. Ship tracks. Communications. Weapons control signals. The Directorate delegation stopped moving. Trent said. Who authorized the attack? Kor's smile disappeared. There was no attack. Trent touched the control. A sequence appeared. The human shuttle entered the designated peace corridor. A Neurali's patrol platform changed orientation. Its targeting system activated. 2 security craft moved into blocking positions. Then the recording froze. This is authenticated Concord telemetry, Trent said. We also have civilian station feeds, maintenance backups, independent vessel records, and the final partial transmission from the mission. Kor leaned forward. Then present your accusations formally. That is why negotiations exist. Rook finally looked toward the 7 empty seats. Then back to Kor. Negotiations exist to prevent conflict between parties capable of honoring agreements. Kor's eyes narrowed. Are you threatening the Directorate? No. Rook's voice remained almost conversational. We're defining the problem. Terran watched her carefully. He had expected anger. Humans had a reputation for emotional attachment to small groups, crews, families, units, towns, rescue teams. The Directorate knew that reputation too. It was probably why the surviving witnesses were still alive. Kor believed he possessed leverage. Rook looked around the chamber. Humanity remains willing to negotiate with the Neurali's Directorate on borders, commerce, security guarantees, demobilization, civilian protection, and peace. Kor seemed almost satisfied. Then she continued. But if the evidence establishes that specific officials deliberately murdered members of a protected peace delegation and detained surviving witnesses to obtain political advantage, those officials will not negotiate immunity for themselves. The room went still. Kor gave a short laugh. You cannot divide a sovereign government into convenient pieces. We can distinguish individuals from institutions. You don't have that authority. No, said Trent, evidence does. The Concord display changed again. A transmission record appeared. Encrypted. Incomplete. But enough metadata remained visible to show it had originated from a Directorate command office. Kor stared at it. Trent said, we will provide the complete package to every Concord member within 6 hours. Kor's voice hardened. And if the Directorate rejects your interpretation? Rook answered. Then your citizens remain citizens. Your soldiers remain eligible to surrender. Your local governments remain eligible to seek peaceful arrangements. Your ships can disengage. Your allies can withdraw support. She paused. The people who ordered the murders can surrender too. Kor's expression turned cold. Lord. Rook met his eyes. Or they can discover how little leverage murder actually buys. Terran felt something unpleasant move through the chamber. Fear, perhaps, but not because humanity had threatened destruction. That would have been familiar. The galaxy understood fleets. It understood bombardment, blockades, deterrence, mutual retaliation. What Terran did not yet understand was why Commodore Rook sounded as though the military part of the crisis was almost secondary. Prefect Kor left the chamber convinced he had won. Terran discovered this 3 hours later when he received a request to attend a closed diplomatic consultation aboard the Neurali's embassy ship. Kor stood before a tactical display surrounded by advisors. They came, he said. Terran remained near the rear wall. Kor turned toward him. You saw it, all that language about accountability, and yet they appeared the moment we announced survivors. Terran chose his words carefully. They did not agree to negotiations. They will. Kor enlarged the Asterian corridor. Human fleet markers glowed blue on the far side of the region. They are predictable, Kor said. Every species is. One advisor asked, "What is humanity's weakness?" Kor smiled. "Attachment." He touched Geethra Relay. They returned for their people. Another marker appeared deeper, inside Directorate territory. Nerali's Crown Station. The surviving witnesses had been moved there. Terran looked at the display. "You transferred them, for security, to a fleet command station." "Precisely." Terran understood. Crown Station was surrounded by Directorate warships. Any rescue attempt would risk a major battle. Kor expected humanity to calculate the cost and return to the negotiating table. Terran should have found the logic reassuring. Instead, he remembered Rook's final sentence. How little leverage murder actually buys. He said, "What exactly do you intend to request in exchange for the witnesses?" Kor turned. "Recognition of our corridor claims, withdrawal of human patrols, termination of the Conquered inquiry." Terran stared at him. "And immunity." Kor smiled again. "Naturally." Terran said nothing. The next morning, humanity published the evidence. Not an accusation. Evidence. That distinction mattered. The package contained traffic records from Geethra Relay, authenticated civilian recordings, fragments of station command logs, and a reconstruction of the 11 missing minutes. The attack had not been an accident. The peace shuttle had been intentionally diverted. Weapons had been authorized. Security units had been told to detain survivors. Most damaging of all was an order stamped through an office directly subordinate to Prefect Kor. Terran read the file twice, then a third time. By midday, 12 governments requested explanations from the Directorate. By evening, 31 did. Kor responded with outrage. He denounced human manipulation. He questioned the authenticity of civilian recordings. He accused the Conquered of bias. Then Commodore Rook did something Terran had never seen during a military confrontation. She released a surrender protocol before the war began. Every Directorate ship received it. Every station received it. Every planetary authority received it. The message was short. Any vessel that powered down offensive systems and transmitted the designated code would not be attacked unless it resumed hostile action. Any civilian administration that remained neutral would retain local authority during the crisis. Any military unit that refused unlawful orders could request monitored disengagement. Any individual providing information related to the detained witnesses could request protective status. There was a separate paragraph for allied states. Humanity had no claim against them. Withdraw, and their forces would not be pursued. Terran read the document from his office in the Conquered Annex. His assistant said, "They're trying to collapse the Directorate." "No." Terran kept reading. "I think they're trying to collapse Kor's protection." He did not like that thought. It was too precise. The first fleet movement occurred 19 hours later. Admiral Vera Sen commanded the outer Nerali's defensive screen. 32 warships formed a broad barrier between human space and Crown Station. Humanity sent 17. Kor celebrated the numbers publicly. The Directorate had almost twice as many vessels. Privately, Terran thought the count was meaningless. The human ships entered the Asterian corridor without forming a conventional attack wedge. They spread. Some moved toward communications nodes. Others toward civilian transit routes. 3 remained behind, escorting evacuation ships. Terran sat inside the Conquered Observation Center, watching the tactical picture beside representatives from 6 neutral governments. A military analyst said, "They aren't concentrating." Another replied, "Then they aren't preparing to break the defensive line." A third shook his head. They have to. But humanity didn't. Instead, hundreds of narrowband transmissions crossed the corridor. One went to every directorate vessel. Another went to every civilian port. A third went to commercial freight crews. Then the humans released the names of 14 officials implicated in the attack. Kor was first. 3 members of his cabinet followed. 2 intelligence directors. 4 security officers. Several command staff. Only 14. Terran stared at the list. Not the directorate. Not the Neurali species. Not even the directorate military. 14 people. An hour later, the human fleet transmitted another message. We have no territorial claims against Neurali space. Ships disengaging from protection of the identified suspects will be permitted to withdraw. Kor responded immediately. Foreign intimidation, ignore it. Admiral Sen did. At first, her fleet maintained formation. Then a cruiser near the outer edge transmitted the human surrender code. Every observer in the conquered center leaned forward. The cruiser powered down its weapons. A human ship altered course toward it. Kor broadcast an order to destroy the defecting cruiser. Admiral Sen did not fire. Neither did the ships beside her. Terran's assistant whispered, "Why?" Terran knew. Because the cruiser was full of Neurali's crew. Because destroying it for refusing to shield Kor would transform a political crisis into something else. And because humanity had created that choice deliberately. The defecting cruiser crossed the line. The human ship escorted it away. No celebration. No attack. No boarding broadcast. Just safe passage. 3 hours later, another ship left Sen's formation. Then a supply vessel. Then 2 patrol craft. Kor demanded arrests aboard every remaining vessel. Sen requested a private conference. Terran received the transcript afterward. Her message was simple. Release the civilian detainees. Kor refused. They are bargaining assets. They are witnesses. Same thing. No, Sen said, not anymore. Terran stopped reading there. For the first time since the crisis began, he felt certain of something. Kor had misunderstood the battlefield. The dangerous thing was not the 17 human warships. It was the fact that every hour fewer people believed they needed to stand between those warships and him. The Directorate's allies began leaving next. Kor had counted on the Valkyrie League to threaten intervention. The League announced neutrality. He expected fuel shipments from the Yedrin Combine. The Combine suspended deliveries. 3 independent stations denied docking privileges to vessels carrying the 14 named officials. Humanity did not seize the stations. It did not threaten them. It simply kept publishing evidence. Every new release was authenticated through a neutral service before publication. Every accusation came with a chain of records. Every person not implicated was given an exit. Terran found that more unsettling than propaganda would have been. Propaganda could be dismissed. Evidence had to be answered. Kor stopped appearing in public. Then the hostage message arrived. It interrupted a conquered emergency session. The central display flickered. Prefect Kor appeared. Behind him was the seal of Crown Station. "I have tolerated enough," he said. His composure had changed. Terran noticed it immediately. The polished certainty was gone. Human forces will halt their advance and dispatch a negotiating delegation to Crown Station. Envoy Trent, seated in one of the formerly empty human chairs, looked up. Kor continued. If they refuse, the Directorate cannot guarantee the continued safety of the surviving witnesses from Githra Relay. A murmur moved across the chamber. Terran looked at Commodore Rook. She was standing against the rear wall, motionless. Kor leaned closer to the camera. You value your people, prove it. The transmission ended. Every delegate turned toward humanity. Terran expected Rook to speak. Instead, Trent did. Humanity will not attend. The chamber erupted. A counselor stood. You cannot simply abandon your citizens. Trent looked toward him. We are not abandoning anyone. Then negotiate. No. The counselor stared. Trent continued. If hostage-taking produces political concessions, then every diplomat, relief worker, researcher, and civilian traveler becomes currency. Another delegate said, their lives are at immediate risk. We know. Then what are you doing? This time Commodore Rook answered. Removing the hostage-taker. She left the chamber. No one knew what that meant. For 7 hours, the human fleet barely moved. Kor declared victory. Then Crown Station lost 3 external sensor arrays. No explosions appeared on the public feeds. No assault wave arrived. Instead, 2 maintenance vessels detached from the station. A Directorate patrol ship moved to intercept. Then stopped. Admiral Sen had countermanded the order. The maintenance vessels crossed toward the human line. One contained station engineers. The other carried communications officers. They brought maps, access codes, security rotations, and confirmation of where the witnesses were held. Kor ordered Sen arrested. She transmitted a message across the entire Directorate fleet. I will not sacrifice Nerali's crews to preserve the personal immunity of political officials. The defensive formation shattered. Half the ships powered down. Others moved away from Crown Station. A few remained loyal to Kor. Humanity still did not launch a mass attack. Terran watched the tactical screen as a small group of human vessels changed course. 1 medical ship, 2 escort craft, a compact transport, several unidentified signatures. They approached through a corridor opened by Admiral Sen. Crown Station tried to close it. Its own traffic controllers refused. Minutes later, the station's internal communications failed. Then returned. Terran received only fragments of what happened next. A locked corridor opened. Security teams abandoned several posts. A human rescue unit reached the detention sector with help from Nerali's officers, who had chosen to cooperate. There was resistance. It was brief. No public footage was released. Humanity transmitted only one message. All surviving Githra witnesses recovered. Terran read it twice. Kor had built his entire strategy around one belief. Humans would negotiate because humans returned for their people. He had been half right. They had returned. They simply had not negotiated. The next morning, the tactical display looked almost empty. Crown Station remained in the center. Around it were 8 loyal warships. Then 7. Then 5. Humanity transmitted a final surrender corridor. Any ship departing within 60 minutes would be permitted to disengage. Kor ordered them to remain. Admiral Sen transmitted from outside the station. Crews of the Crown Guard, this is Admiral Sen. You swore to defend the Directorate. You did not swear to become shields for 14 suspects. 1 ship moved. Then another. Terran stood in the conquered observation center as the markers drifted away from Crown Station. No human ship fired. 1 Nerali's captain transmitted the surrender code. A human vessel acknowledged. Then the next captain followed. The last loyal cruiser remained beside the station, for 12 more minutes. Finally, its weapons powered down. Crown Station stood alone. Terran realized his hands were trembling. His assistant noticed. "Are you afraid of the humans?" Terran considered the question. "Yes." "Because of what they'll do to Core?" "No." He watched the station marker. "Because of what they didn't have to do." Core had expected overwhelming violence. Had humanity destroyed half the Directorate fleet, he could have called himself the defender of Nerali's sovereignty. Had humanity attacked civilian infrastructure, he could have rallied planets behind him. Had humanity punished entire populations, every frightened citizen would have become his ally. Instead, the humans had spent days narrowing the conflict. Person by person, order by order, choice by choice, until the entire war fit inside one station. The communication light activated. A priority signal had arrived from Crown Station. Not for the conquered. For Commodore Rook. Terran requested observer access. The humans allowed it. Core appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted. Behind him, the Grand Command Chamber of Crown Station was almost empty. Commodore Rook. Rook appeared from the bridge of her flagship. "Prefect, I am prepared to negotiate." Terran stopped breathing for a moment. There it was. The sentence everyone had expected from humanity. Spoken by Core. Rook's expression did not change. Core continued quickly. "I will release command authority over Crown Station. In exchange, I require safe passage for myself and designated members of my government." "No." Core stared. "You haven't heard the full proposal." "I heard enough. You cannot refuse talks." "We are talking." "Then negotiate." Rook leaned slightly toward the screen. Negotiation requires something unresolved between legitimate parties. Core's face hardened. "I control Crown Station. Your station commander has surrendered." Core glanced sideways. Terran saw confusion. Rook continued. "Your fleet has disengaged." Core said nothing. "Your hostages are safe." "Nothing." "Your allies have withdrawn military support." His jaw tightened. "Your government ministries have begun cooperating with the Conquered investigation." Core stepped closer to the camera. "I remain prefect of the Directorate. For the moment." "You want peace?" "Yes." "Then you need me." "No." The word landed with the same quiet force as it had days earlier in the Conquered chamber. Core's anger broke through. "I can still order resistance across Nerali's territory." Envoy Trent appeared on a secondary panel. "No regional governor has acknowledged your emergency directive." Core turned pale. Trent continued. 7 have requested monitored political transition. 4 have asked the Conquered to supervise continuity of civilian services." Core looked back toward Rook. "What do you want?" "Your surrender." "And if I refuse?" Rook's answer came without heat. "Crown Station remains isolated. Civilians may leave. Personnel may surrender individually. We will continue accepting them." "You'll wait." "As long as necessary." Terran finally understood the full shape of it. Humanity was denying Core even the dignity of becoming the center of a heroic final battle. No glorious last stand. No burning fleet. No population forced to share his fate. Just doors opening behind him while everyone else walked away. Core seemed to understand too. He lowered his voice. "Safe passage." "No." "Exile." "No." "Political asylum in a neutral state." "No." "Then what is there to discuss?" Rook looked directly into the camera. Nothing concerning your immunity. Silence. You may surrender to conquered custody. You will receive medical care if required, legal representation, independent review of the evidence, and a public tribunal under negotiated intergovernmental rules. Kor stared. You call that diplomacy? Envoy Trent answered. Yes. Kor looked toward him. Trent continued. Diplomacy created the tribunal framework. Diplomacy created the surrender protections. Diplomacy protected your civilian government from collective punishment. Diplomacy persuaded your allies to disengage instead of widening the war. He paused. What diplomacy will not do is convert murdered negotiators into a price you can pay for immunity. Kor's face twisted. You think the galaxy will accept this? Terran did not intend to speak, but observer access gave him an open channel. And suddenly, every eye was on him. The diplomat inside him advised silence. The witness inside him won. The galaxy is watching, Terran said. Kor turned toward his image. Terran continued. It watched you claim the shuttle accident was unavoidable. He felt his heartbeat in his throat. It watched the evidence prove otherwise. Kor's expression darkened. It watched you call detained witnesses protective custody. Terran continued. It watched you place them inside a military station. Terran. It watched you order your own ships to destroy crews attempting to disengage. Kor went silent. Terran looked at the status display. 5 Directorate regional governments had now requested conquered observers. He finished quietly. I think the galaxy has already decided which part of this crisis it finds most dangerous. Kor ended the observer channel. For 3 minutes, nothing happened. Then Crown Station transmitted the surrender code. Human ships moved forward. Slowly. Weapons cold. A conquered transport followed them. Kor emerged under neutral custody. There was no parade. No cheering broadcast. No execution. No human officer stood over him to deliver a final insult. He was transferred aboard the conquered vessel with the other identified suspects. Admiral Sen watched from a nearby ship. When the transport departed, she opened a channel to Commodore Rook. Is this finished? Rook answered, the military crisis is. And the Directorate? That belongs to your people. Sen seemed surprised. You don't intend to occupy Nerali's space? No. You cross the corridor with a fleet. To recover our people and isolate those responsible. Sen looked toward Crown Station. Most governments would have asked for territory. We didn't come for territory. What will you ask for? Envoy Trent answered from another channel. Inspection rights at Geethra Relay, protection guarantees for investigators, restoration of civilian transit. A tribunal agreement. Sen almost laughed. After all this, Trent looked puzzled. Those were the issues before Kor turned them into a war. 3 weeks later, Terran returned to the Galactic Conquered Chamber. The room looked almost exactly as it had before. That bothered him. History had changed, yet the lights were still the same. Delegates still argued in the corridors. Clerks still complained about translation delays. Someone from the Agricultural Commission had already filed a protest because the emergency sessions had displaced a hearing on cross-border seed regulations. Perhaps that was what peace looked like. Not silence. Ordinary arguments returning. Terran entered the chamber and stopped. The 7 human chairs were occupied again. Not by the same 7 people. Those diplomats were gone. Their names had been entered into the conquered memorial register. But the seats were no longer empty. Commodore Rook stood along the rear wall. Envoy Trent reviewed a stack of documents. Across the chamber sat a temporary Neurales delegation representing the Transition Council. Admiral Sin was not among them. She had declined political office and remained with the fleet. Terran respected her more for that. A new chair had been added beside the Neurales section. A small woman sat there, wearing the gray identification band of a protected witness. She had survived Githra Relay. Terran recognized her from the rescue records. He looked toward the place where Prefect Kor had once sat. His chair had been removed. No replacement stood there. The chamber coordinator called the session to order. Item 1. Temporary navigation arrangements for the Asterian corridor. Terran almost smiled. After everything, they had returned to the original argument. Routes, inspections, civilian traffic, negotiations, actual negotiations. The central terminal beside him illuminated. An archived diplomatic file remained open from the crisis.